having a youth pastor
It
just
keeps
means
everything lively, doesn't it?
lively's one way to put it.
Heresy, eh?
It keeps everything sick.
How
Dan.
Canadians,
It
how
keeps everything
Canadians say
sick.
heresy.
Oh my gosh! So welcome to the Creek
slaps.
Week. Creek Week.
Creek
It
Week.
slaps.
It's like
It's slap. It does not clap.
It does not. So we had kind of an interesting week here leading up to Easter. Somebody was checking out Allen Creek's social, Facebook and stuff, and had a problem with the idea that we're celebrating Easter here at church.
Yeah, didn't like that word.
And really that was the issue, right, Rick?
Mainly, it was the word. In fact,
I have the actual comment. So it says,
go ahead, lay it on.
I read your statement of faith and was going to go to your resurrection service, but I see you are incorporating in your celebration to include the abomination of Ishtar, the fertility goddess. Children will still be a lost generation. Sad.
So, Rick, this Ishtar, help. Are we celebrating?
Help us!
Are we celebrating a Babylonian god here? This weekend?
What's funny is that this may be the best argument that the 18th century atheist had to offer, or 19th century. So, in other words, it's an old argument, and it's not a particularly good one, and ironically being put forward by a convinced Christian. So this Christian is concerned that by using the word Easter, we're celebrating Ishtar.
Okay, so just to clarify, in the 18th century, a bunch of atheists said, hey, Christians, your stupid Easter celebration is really just a celebration of Ishtar.
Yes.
They said that, and that's been disproven.
Yes.
But now in the 21st century, we have a Christian appealing to the old atheist argument.
Resurrecting an old atheist argument.
Resurrecting an old argument.
You get it? I see what I did there?
I see.
Resurrecting an argument. But in part, they're doing it because the atheists themselves, neo-pagans, are resurrecting the argument. And so the internet has done wonders for old debunked things.
Gotcha.
So it used to be in the 1900s that they thought that the seed, the way that Christianity really sprung out of Roman paganism. That's the way to understand it. So when you're trying to, how do you understand Christian thinking, Christian theology? Well, think about it in terms of an evolution out of Roman paganism. That's how they thought about it. Okay. Well, that's been utterly debunked. The best way to think about the origins and flavor and intellectual underpinnings of Christianity is it's an expression of Judaism.
It's Hebrew.
It's a Hebrew phenomena, not a Roman phenomena. And so the idea that Christianity is some perversion of Mithras, the Mithraic religion, the dying gods and the bull cult, and this is just another example of that. And so it's wrong-headed out of the gate, in part because one just simply takes the idea of two words that sound the same, Ishtar and Easter, and says, oh, that must be the same thing. When you think about it for 5 seconds, number one, Ishtar is a Babylonian goddess, so separated from Christianity by 3,000 miles and about 3,000 years of development. And so there's no Babylonian paganism going on in England, which is where the word Easter came from. In fact, there's paganism in England, just not Babylonian paganism. Right? So that's a big piece of the response, is just to cool our jets a little bit on it. Just it's a homophone. It sounds the same. Doesn't mean it's the same. Not referring to the same thing at all.
What does Easter? What are the origins of the word Easter then?
I'm glad you asked, Dan. So it actually is really cloudy, and no one, by believing or non-believing, has a real firm idea of where the name comes from. So there's one reference in about the 8th century to a monk who,
the Venerable Bede,
who is actually very respectable,
a Northumbrian,
who said that it was named the month of Passover, when we celebrate Easter, was named after an English goddess of fertility named Ostra. And that's the only reference, it's 2 sentences long, in all of antiquity that connects Easter, the word Easter, to anything pagan at all.
So bottom line here is we're not celebrating any pagan
Well, no,
ritual.
and there's a much better explanation. So that might be, where it comes from. We just need to admit that. But a much better explanation is it comes from the Germanic word for east, and that Jesus rose from the dead in the same way that the sun rises in the east, and so it kind of had a derivation out of the Easter, or the German word for east, which is Ost or Osterlich, which means easterly, and so that's probably where it comes from.
I believe Alex has a question.
I do, Rick.
Jump in.
So where is this fertility goddess is there any connection there? Like, why would she go there? Why?
Well, that's another great point, which is it seems dubious out of the gate. Why would Christians name their highest holy day after anything pagan? Dan, you've studied a lot of the early fathers to know the church fought so hard against European paganism. So to think that they named their highest holy day after a pagan goddess is just dubious, just right out of the gate. Right. So the only reason to think that there was any connection is this one quote, and the much more reasonable assumption is it has something to do with East. And by the way, in every non-English speaking country, the word for Easter is never anything close to Easter.
Pascha.
What is it? It's Pascha. It's Pascha in Greek,
so like Passover.
In Sweden, in Swedish, in Italian, in Spanish, in all these other Romantic languages, it's some form of the word Pascha, which it refers to
Passover.
Yeah.
So we're not saying that there weren't some pagan things that worked in over the centuries into celebrations, things like bunnies and eggs.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Those are things that just kind of work their way into the holiday from other, just like the Christmas tree worked its way into Christmas.
Yule log.
Yeah, those sorts of things. And,
we're blowing him away right now, I guess.
Right now.
No, I knew the Christmas tree, and I'm sure that I knew the eggs weren't Jesus. So I was always wondering.
Pretty clear.
There's like a bunny looking at the cross,
Right.
There's a great meme, I think, a picture of Christ on the cross, and somebody asks, it's like, wow, so you died to save the world and everything. How do you want this remembered? And he just says, eggs.
Was like a bunny looking at the cross.
But there's so this is really fascinating in terms of etymology and history and
what
these
does
sorts
that
of
mean?
things.
That's the history of a word.
Okay.
Etymology is how a word got to be what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but there's also one last thing we should probably touch on, and that's kind of how this came to us.
Yeah.
And it's like Alex, say a little bit about kind of the social media component of this sort of thing.
Yeah. So this was brought up, and as a young tech savvy individual, I messaged them and said, "What do you mean? This isn't the place, right? Like that's not the place
to sort of
to have that conversation. To say, I'm not going to come to your church because Easter eggs is kind of not super unifying. And and if she would have been, or if this individual would have been more willing to maybe sit down with you, Rick, and maybe have this conversation, that could have been a much better way to deal with it, right?
It does relate to where do Christians get their information, right, Dan? I mean, think about it. We got to curate our information these days, and that brings to mind that there are better and worse places, right, to get our data.
So I shouldn't go to an atheist website to figure out what I think of Easter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Good.
And this is the internet is it's the most astounding informational resource
it is
ever.
Yeah.
And so that means that there's a lot of garbage out there too. Mm-hmm. So I think the big thing is to be connected with someone relationally that you trust, and have them work with, kind of hold you accountable to your information sources.
Yeah, that's good.
Like I'll see things, like, wait a minute. And I've got some training, so I can tend to filter things on my own for the most when it comes to this. But when it comes to things like virology, which is a subject a lot of us have been looking at for the last couple of years.
I'm an expert now.
Yeah, I don't get my virology information from Rick. Right? I get it from Alex, where I should.
Yeah.
No, so but I do have relationship with medical people, with scientists, right? And I'm like, what do you think of this source of information? So finally, when we go back to the center of the gospel, it's always about relationship.
It should always be about relationship.
And so even when something comes up, like, these are great questions. Like, wouldn't it be great? How much would we love somebody making a phone? Say, I would love to come in and talk to you about this.
Yeah.
Yes, please
Absolutely.
come in.
You want us to order a pizza?
Let's have a pizza.
Let's
get
do
the
it.
books out. Let's talk
about
this, and that's why we do investigations starting Monday the 25th.
Yes. Oh,
little
nice.
Little plug.
Brownie points for me.
Oh.
Segue of the week right there.
Yeah.
Kiss that up.
So anyway, Easter this Sunday.
This Sunday, two
we're going to be
services.
celebrating no Babylonian princesses, No bunnies, no eggs. We are celebrating the resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth, the Savior of the
He was
world.
like this.
Was I like this?
And then we have our Easter escape room.
Oh, the Saturday.
That will be Saturday, which would be the day after this is released. And so, we want you there. And that's the only time we're celebrating eggs. But we're really not celebrating them because your kid gets to learn more about the Jesus story as they discover eggs.
And they get candy.
So who knew that God could redeem this?
Well, absolutely, right? I mean, it just answers.
I did.
Well, that's good.
Nice.
Gold
Gold star, Dan.
A+.
Gold star, Dan.
It's in Romans. That's in your Bible, Alex.
Read it.
Read it.
Maybe get a study one.
Maybe.
You see what I have to work with?